What your pet reptile says about you. I'm about to show you just how great of a judge of character I am, solely based on the pet reptiles you keep. But first, let's just quickly get me out of the way. I mostly keep frilled lizard and various hognose species. Reptiles that tend to be all show and no real bite. This probably tells you that I'm usually full of crap. You know, I go around acting big and tough, but in reality I'm just a coward. But then again, I also do have Texans, which means I'm probably a right snappy sod, and let's face it, a bit of a dickhead. Ooh, and then there's me king snake. So I guess I'm thick as pig shit as well.
Boom. Roasted.
Now that I've properly judged and offended myself, I have a free pass to now offend you. Now please don't get me cancelled for this video. I've just barely walked into the public eye. Although this video could very well get me cancelled. I can already foresee an absolute shit ton of dislikes coming in, but f*** it. And don't forget, this is all just exaggerated fun. I'm talking out of my arse on all of these, and if I offend any of you, please act like a Kenyan sandboa and bury your head in the sand, and preferably stay there. And remember that I primarily keep animals that bluff, so I'm obviously full of crap and scared shitless. But you've been warned. Now let's get started with this. Side note, I'm skipping any of the animals I currently own because I'm not a fan of being criticized, even if it is by myself in this context of the video. So let's start off with our first judgment here, a green iguana. And we are starting off with one hell of a belter here. If you own one of these guys, you're living in the past. Green iguanas have not been popular for years, and there's a bloody good reason for that. If you've obtained one of these guys, it's because you wanted a reptile, then did cool research, and picked one of these animals because they're green. Well done. You know, good job on you, dumbass. Let's say you did a little bit of research before getting this animal, and found out that they are grumpy little sods that take serious effort to tame down. Serious bloody effort and time. Do not take that lightly. But you thought you were the one to do it. You thought you were the hero of this story.
Am I a hero?
Nothing's going to hold you back. You're the main character, the protagonist of this. And you probably think that you're some kind of reptile whisperer, thinking that you can tame this scaly beast with your love and affection. Let me tell you now, that's not going to happen. And let's face it, deep down, you know the truth. You know that your iguana secretly despises you and is just biding its time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to tail whip your arse into absolute fucking oblivion. I mean, let's be real here. You're probably spending more money on this fucking thing's diet than your own. And because it's a vegetarian-based diet, you know for a fact it's eating better than you, and that's primarily because you have no self-respect or self-discipline. Every time this green iguana looks at you, it gives you that cold reptilian stare, and you're reminded that this is a very one-sided relationship. You're putting in all the effort here. Basically, you're the iguana's bitch. So let's get to the verdict here. If you own a green iguana, you're a glutton for punishment. Or you've got this deep-seated need to constantly feel rejected and unloved. But let's be honest, you probably never felt real love or affection in your life to begin with. Alright, if that hasn't offended you, let's crank this up another notch. It's a green iguana, for fuck's sakes. If you own a green iguana, you're a simp. And you have at least one OnlyFans subscription, probably many, many more, but you have at least one, and that's a big problem. But hey, at least now you can be ignored by a lizard and a member of the opposite sex. Also, you're adopted. Boom, roasted. Now just so you know, it doesn't get a lot nicer from this point, in case you haven't guessed. But before we move on to my next judgment, go ahead and give that like button a slap, because we both know you need some validation after that roasting. So my next judgment now, a box turtle. To be completely fair, it doesn't really matter which one. They're all going to be kind of looped into the same kind of pot of soup here. Pot of soup, even a turn of phrase. They're all going to be kind of jumped in together. But a box turtle, we are really aiming for the excitement factor on this one, aren't we? Now what you've done is you've chosen a turtle that isn't very good at being a turtle. Like, they can't swim. That's like one of the only things that people are going to really understand about turtles is that they fucking swim, and this one doesn't. You've bought a broken turtle. So you thought to yourself you wanted a reptile, but you didn't want a reptile that acted like any of the other reptiles, like a lizard or a snake. You know, the primary ones when people think of reptiles. You wanted to go for something boring. You basically wanted a pet rock, but one that requires feeding and cleaning. So you bought a broken pet rock. You probably convinced yourself that a box turtle's laid-back kind of vibe, right? You know, they're very chill. Matches your personality and kind of what you want to portray to the world. This very chill, cool, kind of mellow person. But let's be completely honest with ourselves here. You're just lazy and boring as fuck. You get your excitement nowadays from watching your turtle chomp down on a massive piece of lettuce. And while you watch your turtle eat, you wonder to yourself, where all the thrill in your life went, where all that young excitement's gone. But you probably never had any to begin with. I mean, who knew I could rip a box turtle owner this bad. I mean, box turtles are great pets. I've owned one, little Picasso. I loved the little guy. So I guess that means I've got to kind of include myself in this judgment. This has backfired a little bit. Let's put it plain. If you own a box turtle, you're probably the type of person that likes to watch paint dry or grass grow, and you get excited to change it up between the two. You've never been the center of attention at a party, but you've probably never been invited to a party. You've always been chosen last in the school sports games or in gym class, and your favorite position is probably missionary, but you've never actually tried it. That took a lot out of me to say all that shit about a box turtle, an animal that I owned, an animal that I loved, little Picasso. I can't bring myself to take this one any further. Boom, you've been roasted. Let's move on. Next up, the mourning gecko. You went for a reptile so small and elusive, you may even forget that you fucking owned them. But at least they're low maintenance, just like your commitment to pretty much everything else. You chose a lizard that reproduces without really needing a mate. Yes, it needs another one to kind of stimulate the thing, but they don't need a male. So either you're fascinated with this miracle of life, or you're a feminist named Karen. You're also a cheap cunt who saw this as a loophole or an opportunity for unlimited pet renewals, like an endless supply of fountain drinks at your local fat shack. Your mourning gecko probably has a more active social life than you do. Sorry, let me correct myself. Your mourning gecko definitely has a more active social life than you do. It spends its days cloning itself, while you spend your days endlessly scrolling through social media and relentlessly swiping right without getting a single match. Let's cut to the chase. If you're an owner of a mourning gecko, you're the type of person that thinks having this lizard with this kind of quirky breeding tactic, method, system, whatever you want to call it, adds to your uniqueness. But deep down, you know you lack substance and social connection. Oh, and good luck explaining to people why your girls' night in consists of you and a bunch of identical tiny little female lizards in a jar. The way I envision it is that you're kind of hugging the jar, kind of like posted in a corner, you know, pointing your face towards the corner, just kind of hugging this little jar. Owning a mourning gecko is like saying, I want a pet reptile, but I also want to be endlessly reminded of my crippling loneliness. You've probably named each of those little clones in there, and they still don't even know your name. You're like the third wheel in this relationship, you know? And I mean, let's get to the real nitty-gritty of this. Mourning geckos don't have sex, and that's still more action than you've had in years. And sometimes you even wonder if it still works. Boom, roasted. Number 4. The mountain horned dragon. Those of you who have been watching this channel for a while may have seen this one coming. Well, look at you buying yourself a dragon. A true legend if I've ever seen one. You probably named it Drogon, and I respect that.
Driven.
You didn't just go for the flashy mainstream reptiles or the simple mainstream reptiles, whichever mainstream reptile you are thinking of. You went for something a little bit more unique, a little bit more hidden. A hidden gem in the rough, they could say. An animal that is underappreciated in the hobby. And, thankfully, indestructible. You've got good taste, my man or woman or whatever you are. The mountain horned dragon is a species that just does not get the recognition that it deserves. But you saw its potential. You saw its uniqueness, its greatness. You saw that. It's not about flash. It's about the depth of the animal. And you have that in plentiful amount, my friend. Alright. They're cheap, they're easy to care for, and they're easy to get. But still fucking epic. Boom, roasted. And our 5th entry today. The final judgment I'm about to make here. The Burmese python. And you know what they say? Big and fucking stupid. You're probably one of those people that shows off their snake to pretty much everybody that they meet. And you're also one of those people that tells everybody you meet that you have a giant snake. Thinking, or let's be honest, hoping that it impresses them. That it makes them like you. But it doesn't. It just makes them think that you're a little odd. You're the type of person that peaked in high school, and that is the highest level of success you ever achieved, and will most likely ever achieve. Ever since then, it's just been a rapid decline, all the way down to nothingness. Just like your dreams. Also, owning a snake this size is basically just a cry for help. You're trying to say, hey, look at me, I'm unique, I'm big, I've got something cool. But in reality, you're about as intimidating as a garden hose and about intellectually sound as a garden hose. Right. So let's deal with the elephant in the room here. You've got a small cock, and you bought a giant snake to try and compensate for your tiny little cock. But you didn't even compensate properly. There are larger snakes than the Burmese python. Did you get the Burmese python because it isn't the biggest? So you thought it would throw people off your scent, off your ploy? Thinking that it'd be like, well, it's not the biggest snakes. They're not going to think I'm compensating, are they? No, we know what you're compensating for. You're hiding nothing from us. We see right through all of this.
Boom. Roasted.
You know what, I think I'm going to leave it there. I've got like 8 more in here I was going to do. As normal, none of this is actually scripted. I just had listed like 12 animals that I was thinking about doing this with. But I feel like for my own safety, I should only really be generating so much hate at one time. So I think we're going to leave it at the 5 that we just did. Now, one more thing. A reminder. This is all sarcasm. This is all jokes. This is all bullshit. I'm just making all of this up. I don't mean any of this. It's just for entertainment. Comedy, if you will. All of this just came straight off the cuff. None of this was planned. This is just what I thought, and I said it. Let me know if I should do the other 8, or if maybe I should just kind of like disappear, maybe under the desk or something.